Hare Krishna. I welcome everybody to Bhakti Sangha Jepa conference call. We are ongoing. The Krishna Katha Mela is going on from last 3-4 weeks. Today we are very, very fortunate to have Her Grace Saroja Nandini Mataji to enlighten us on the topic Krishna, the Ranacora. I would like to hand over the call to Kirtida Sundari Mataji to give a brief introduction on Saroja Nandini Mataji. Mataji, please take over.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji. And thank you everyone for joining us today in this Krishna Katha Mela. So today we are really fortunate to have Her Grace Saroja Nandini Mataji with us, who is going to enlighten us on such a wonderful topic. And it's an honor and privilege for me to give a brief introduction. So Saroja Nandini Mataji, we all know, she is a very active member in our Bhakti Sangha. She is an initiated disciple of His Holiness Jai Pataka Swami Maharaj. She has been in Krishna consciousness since she was just 5 years old. And later on, after finishing college, she took initiation from His Holiness in the year 2007. She is a computer science engineer and has worked for Infosys and Oracle while she was in Bangalore. After marriage, she was engaged with various temple preaching activities like kids program, youth girls preaching, book distribution, Mataji's preaching, and she also conducts Bhakti Vriksha preaching in Bangalore. After she moved to United States, she was also engaged in university preaching and book distribution at Purdue University, Indiana. Then she was engaged in kids program at Temple and Bhakti Vriksha preaching in Detroit and Georgia. Currently, she has been serving in the New Talavan Temple. She is doing deity dressing, other deity worship activities, kids program, and she is also cooking sumptuous sweets for the feast for the deities. In Bhakti Sangha, Mataji is the Damodar class teacher and the coordinator as well. And she teaches rhymes in her very, very sweet melodious voice. The ABC rhyme was one of the first and popular rhymes from Bhakti Sangha. She also serves as a Govinda and Madhava teacher from time to time. She was one of the main coordinators of the Damodar Kids Camp, who created the course structure, and she also has written drama scripts. She gives classes for adults, and she has recorded various verses and prayers in her voice, and that is uploaded in YouTube, which helps with those who want to memorize those rhymes and verses. So thank you so much, Saroja Nandini Mataji, for being with us, for helping this Bhakti Sangha to grow more and more. And now we are really waiting for your very, very sweet, wonderful topic, that is Krishna, the Ranacora, where Krishna is accepting all kind of names with all his beautiful pastimes. So over to you, Saroja Nandini Mataji. Thank you so much for your association. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Kirtida Sundari Mataji. I really feel privileged to be here in Bhakti Sangha, and I feel very fortunate that I'm learning a lot from all the devotees, wonderful devotees of Bhakti Sangha, and also benefiting in various ways. So let me start with the prayers. Ajnanaatimirandhasya jnananjanashalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desh Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna to everyone. Past few weeks, we have been hearing such wonderful pastimes of Lord Krishna. And we have been relishing them in all of these pastimes. We have been hearing on different topics from different speakers. Although we might have heard these stories many times before, although we might have, it is still always very nectarian when we hear it again and again. So these pastimes of Lord Krishna, the form of Lord Krishna, and the description of the glories of devotees, they all purify our consciousness. They are ever fresh and ever relishing. That is why the scriptures say, who is that person who is satisfied just by hearing once? And one person even asked Srila Prabhupada that all of your followers are chanting and hearing constantly. You're chanting the names of Krishna, you're chanting the glories of Krishna, reading from the same Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing the same pastimes again and again, you're chanting the same Mahamantra every day. So what do you expect out of all this chanting? And Srila Prabhupada just replied, and he said that we expect to continue chanting forever. So that is the glories of the chanting of the holy names and the pastimes of Krishna. And today I'm going to speak on one such topic of Krishna's pastimes, a wonderful pastime including three personalities, Kalayavana, Jarasandha, and Muchukunda. And I thank all the organizers of Bhakti Sangha for giving me this opportunity to speak on this wonderful topic. So let's begin with the story of Jarasandha. Jarasandha was one of the most powerful allies of Kamsa. We all know that Kamsa was the king of Mathura, and he was such a cruel king, and he was always meditating on how to kill Krishna right from his birth, because there was a prophecy that he would be killed by the eighth son of the Devaki. So although he tried many means to kill Krishna, but he was not successful at all. Finally, Kamsa brought Krishna to Mathura, and then he was able to able to bring Krishna to Mathura, and then Krishna not only wrestled and killed the wrestlers Mushtika and Chanura, but he also killed Kamsa. So now the story starts from the point that Kamsa was killed, because Jarasandha was such a powerful ally of Kamsa. He married his two daughters, Asti and Prapti, to Kamsa. Now, after Kamsa's death, these two daughters of Jarasandha became widowed. And in those days, women were always under the protection of men. In her childhood, a woman is under the protection of her father. And after marriage, she's under the protection of her husband. And after the death of her husband, in her old age, she's under the protection of her sons. And if she doesn't have sons, then after the death of her husband, she goes back to her father's place. So that's how they came back to Jarasandha's place. And they were describing their pitiable condition after Kamsa's death. So then Jarasandha, this is a very interesting nature of human beings that, Jarasandha, although he was being such a cruel person and such cruel-hearted person for so many people, but when it comes to his own daughters, he was a very soft-hearted father. So this is the very interesting nature, because the demons, although they cause trouble to others, when it comes to their own relatives, they think that they are mine. So they are able to, be very soft to these people.
Hare Krishna. It's breaking, right? It's breaking for everybody, right? Oh, I know you all cannot unmute. Yeah, maybe Mataji's internet is not good. We can get that. Yeah, it is close. Maybe I will call and see. She's there, yeah, she's there.
Hare Krishna, I'm sorry, there was some connection issue, I think. So, can you hear me?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, thank you. So, we were in the middle of the story of Jarasandha, that he was so angry that he gathered a huge army with millions of soldiers and horses and elephants and also weapons. So he was a very powerful king. So just by his command, he was able to gather such a huge army. So he gathered all this army and then they all went to attack Mathura. And Mathura was having a very small army when compared to Jarasandha's army. And so Krishna and Balaram, they came out to fight with Jarasandha with their small Yadu army. And then, although their army was small, Krishna and Balaram, they were very powerful. So within a short time, they were able to completely destroy Jarasandha's army. So they destroyed all the soldiers and the whole of Jarasandha's army, and Balaram captured Jarasandha. Now he was about to tie him up like an animal. Already, this is a very big insult for Jarasandha, because for such a powerful king like Jarasandha to be left alive is a very great insult. At least if he had died in the battlefield, there would be some valor in it. But he was left alive, and not only that, he was given that insult. To make it more worse, Krishna said to Balarama, just let him go, just don't bother to capture him, just let him go. And this was even more insulting to Jarasandha. So he was so insulted and so humiliated that he went back to his kingdom Magadha, and he wanted to do severe tapasya to gather more powers to come and take his revenge back on Krishna and Balaram. So he went back to his kingdom and he was planning to do tapasya. But some of the other kings who were his well-wishers, they told Jarasandha that, it's going to take a long time for you to do tapasya and then gather powers and then go back and then attack Krishna and Balaram. Instead, you can just, gather another huge army and then attack Krishna again. Maybe it was just your karma that you lost last time, It might be that this time you might be victorious. So just don't bother to do such severe austerities. So then again, he listened to their words and then he gathered another huge army and he wanted to go back and then attack Krishna and in Mathura again. So second time he attacked with a huge army, and then again Krishna and Balaram, they came out and then they killed whole of Jarasandha's army, and then again they left him alive and they caught him and then they let him go. So this was how insulting, every time he was coming and then Krishna was killing all the army and he was letting Jarasandha go. Now there is a reason behind it. Why would Krishna do such a thing? He left Jarasandha, but he killed all the armies. There was a purpose behind it. This is because when Bhumi went to Krishna before his advent, she told him that there are limitless demonic warriors who are traversing on the earth and who are causing her a lot of pain. So she requested Krishna to destroy them. And in order to relieve the earth or Bhumi Devi from the burden of such demonic warriors, Krishna killed all these soldiers. So it was like, instead of Krishna having to go in search of these demonic warriors and these demonic people and then going and killing them, Jarasandha was bringing all the demonic warriors to Krishna and then to his own home in Mathura, and then Krishna was just easily killing them off. He didn't have to take the effort even to go and kill all these soldiers. So that was the purpose behind it. And Krishna, it was so beautiful in one sense, because it was like a assembly line of armies who were coming to Krishna just to get destroyed. So the army was coming, Krishna was killing them, and then again the army was coming, and then Krishna was killing them. So it was like an assembly line of armies, just like how Krishna describes in the shloka, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. So without any effort, it was looking so effortlessly that Krishna was killing all these armies of Jarasandha. So this was happening 17 times consecutively, and Jarasandha never got tired. One might even think that, why wouldn't he give up? Every time he was getting defeated and he was getting insulted, and he was still coming back to Krishna to fight with him. And the answer is that it's his intelligence was bewildered by his envy. So the envy actually covers the intelligence of people. These 6 anarthas of human beings, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, they actually cloud the intelligence so much that people really don't understand what they do. The lust, anger, greed, etc., they really make a person justify anything. So he was justifying that he was right in trying to kill Krishna, because he was thinking Krishna is the bad person and he was thinking Kamsa is the good person here. So, the envy, it kind of bewilders people's mind and they justify anything. So as Krishna says in the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Vijayate. So when we have attachment towards something, then we develop lust. And Kamat Krodho. So from lust, anger arises. And then a subsequent shloka, again, Krishna continues saying, Krodhat Bhavati Sammohaha. So one gets completely illusioned. So when we see that when some people are intoxicated, they would do some things which they would not even imagine doing when they were not intoxicated. So these anarthas like envy, anger, greed, and lust, they are all like intoxication. They make the people do things that they would not do when they are in their proper senses. So that's how envious Jarasandha was. He was seeing that Krishna and Balaram, they're more powerful than me. He was seeing that, it is not possible. 17 times they have already killed my armies. And still he was expecting that next time he would defeat Krishna. So that was how his envy was working on him. And so the 18th time, again, tirelessly, he brought a huge army he was bringing a huge army to attack Krishna. And this time, it was not only Jarasandha who was attacking Mathura. There was also another person called Kalayavana who was coming to attack Krishna from another side. So Kalayavana was coming previous day, and then Jarasandha was supposed to come the next day. So Krishna got the news and he wanted to protect Mathura from both sides, because, Krishna and Balaram, they were thinking that if they go on either side to defend Mathura, then the other person would attack Mathura. And he did not want the residents of Mathura to get affected in any way. So Krishna planned a beautiful fort to be built in the middle of the sea. And with the help of Vishwakarma, who was a great architect of the demigods, he actually took Vishwakarma's help to build this beautiful fort within the sea. And this beautiful island was not just any other small island. It was a well planned and well-constructed city with planned roads and streets and lanes. It had beautiful, well-planned parks and gardens, which had plants all around, which were called Kalpavriksha or desire trees. And then the residential quarters were also built separately according to the caste: Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Now imagine all these planning had to happen within a very short time, because he did not have much time to protect his residents. So he was paying attention to so many details. It was not just that, it was an emergency plan and he just built something, but he built a very beautiful fort. And in the middle of the city, he built a very dazzling palace for King Ugrasena. And there were so many other details to it. So all these details he planned along with Vishwakarma, he built, and this city was known as Dwaraka. So within one night, he transferred all the residents of Dwaraka, all residents of Mathura to Dwaraka with his mystic power. So it was as though they slept in Mathura the previous night, and then they woke up in Dwaraka the next morning in these beautiful palaces, along with all their belongings. They didn't have to take the effort to move to Dwaraka. So such was the costless mercy of Krishna that, the residents of Dwaraka were protected so very well. And the city of Dwaraka had like high walls surrounding them so that they would be well protected. So he did all this to protect the citizens of Dwaraka and then residents of Mathura. And then he went out to face Kalayavana. So now Krishna is coming out of Mathura, and then Kalayavana is waiting with all his army and with his weapons, and he's standing on his chariot. And he saw that Krishna is coming barehanded without any weapons or any chariot. Now, he was a true Kshatriya, so he wanted to be fair. So he put down his weapons, and then he came down his chariot to fight with Krishna with his hands. And then he was coming down and he was waiting, and Krishna was coming forward towards Kalayavana. And then when Krishna came near, he just passed by. He did not even pay attention to Kalayavana. He did not even see him or talk to him, anything. And Kalayavana was just bewildered, and he was just wondering what's happening. He was baffled. He was trying to call out to Krishna, but Krishna would not reply. Krishna kept walking. And Kalayavana was so insulted. And then he started calling out to Krishna and insulting him with, words like, you're a coward and you're running away from the battlefield. You wouldn't even fight with me. What kind of a Kshatriya you are? He would call out names to Krishna, and then he was running behind. But he was saying that Krishna did not pay attention to any of these. So he was just running behind and chasing Krishna. So Kalyavana was running very fast, but Krishna was just walking. And still Kalyavana could not catch up with Krishna. It was looking as though he was just very near Krishna and he was about to touch him, but he could not touch Krishna. So this was the, game that Krishna was playing with Kalyavana. And then it is described in the scriptures that Kalyavana could not catch up with Krishna because of his sinful acts. He was not, he was still full of so much of sinful contamination that he could not touch Krishna. So then Krishna climbed up a mountain and he went inside a cave. So Kalyavana also followed him and he went inside the cave. Now the cave was dark and Kalyavana could not see clearly. He did not see the details, but he saw what he thought to be Krishna was sleeping on the floor of the cave. Now this was a very big insult to Kalyavana. Already Krishna had ignored him, and it was seeming as though Krishna did not even give any credibility to Kalyavana. And he behaved as though Kalyavana did not exist. So Kalyavana felt terribly humiliated and he kicked the person lying on the ground, thinking him to be Krishna. But this was the planning of Krishna, that it was not Krishna, it was somebody else. It was a person called as Muchukunda. So before, I think I missed the part of how Kalyavana was enemy of the Yadus. So Kalyavana's story is that Kalyavana was a person who was born to a Yavana king. But actually the story starts from Gargya Muni. Gargya Muni was the priest of the Yadu dynasty. And it so happened that in Mathura, once his brother-in-law insulted him as not being a man. So Gargya Muni felt very upset, and he felt insulted, and he came out of Mathura. But he wanted to beget a son, although he was not married, but he wanted to get a son who could destroy the Yadu dynasty. So he meditated on Rudra intensely, and he got a boon that he would indeed get a son who would be able to destroy the Yadu dynasty. And the Yavana king who was nearby, who heard about Gargya Muni's boon, but he did not have a son for a very long time. So he called Gargya Muni to his place, and he gave him a lot of respect, and he made arrangements so that Gargya Muni could beget a son in one of his wife's wombs. And this son was called as Kalayavana. And after the Yavana king's death, he became the king. So now he was a king, and he wanted to kill the whole of the Yadu dynasty. That's why he came to attack Mathura. And now Kalayavana was being misled by Krishna into that mountain cave just to meet his death. Because when Muchukunda woke up, he saw, and when he glanced at Kalayavana, a fire just ignited within him, and he burnt to ashes immediately. So effortlessly, Krishna killed Kalayavana, and he kind of misled him into that cave. And Kalayavana did not even understand what was happening, but he was already dead. Now, this is another interesting point, that who was Muchukunda? Because Muchukunda was a king, and he was having a very beautiful palace, beautiful wives, family, and his kingdom had no problems, because he was a very intelligent, strong, and very compassionate king, that his kingdom had practically no problems. He had no enemies. So he was living very peacefully. But then the demigods, they had come to Muchukunda to ask for his help, because they were being attacked by the Asuras. So the demigods came to Muchukunda, and then they said, "O king, please protect us, because we are not able to withstand the power of the Asuras." So the Asuras, the demigods, they called Muchukunda, and Muchukunda came to protect the demigods. So he was fighting with all his heart, and he was protecting the demigods, so much so that the Asuras were never able to defeat the demigods until he was the commander. So he was protecting the demigods, and he was a very selfless and kind-hearted person. He was fighting sleeplessly for many years together. Many years had passed, and he was living in the time of the demigods, which is a very long time. So after a long time, then Shiva and Parvati had Kartikeya. Kartikeya was born to Shiva and Parvati, and then he became the commander of the army of the demigods. And then now the demigods, they said to Muchukunda that now you may go, because we don't need you to protect us. We have our own commander. So then Muchukunda was tired, but then demigods wanted to give him a boon, because they felt a lot of gratitude, because Muchukunda had protected their army, and he had protected them from the Asuras' attack. So they wanted to give him a boon. So Indra told him that, "My dear Muchukunda, you have fought for a very long time. You can go now, but you can ask any boon from me except liberation, because liberation can be given only by the Supreme Lord." So then Muchukunda was thinking, because Indra was also telling him that, a long time has passed by, and you did not realize we are living in our time zone, and the kings, the queens, and the children, and the friends and ministers who were with you, they're all gone. By the power of time, many generations have passed. So now Muchukunda was thinking what to ask, because he cannot go back to his kingdom. He has made a big sacrifice by coming and helping the demigods. But he was a very great devotee of Krishna. So what he asked is, he wanted to ask that he wants to sleep without any disturbance. So he told the demigods, "I want to sleep without any disturbance. And if anyone dares to disturb my sleep, he should be burnt to ashes immediately." Now, why would somebody ask such a boon? It's very interesting. One reason is, of course, that Muchukunda wanted to sleep without any disturbance, because there's always some disturbance of the other. And even the demigods might come back. And then if something happens with Kartikeya, he had the thought that maybe they would come back to me and say, Muchikunda, we want you again, please come and protect us. So he wanted to ensure that he wants to have a good sleep. And the second reason is that Krishna, who is present within his devotee's heart, he wanted to fulfill some purpose out of Muchikunda's boon. And now we know what the purpose is, that he wanted Kalayavana to die from Muchikunda's boon. And so now Kalayavana was finished just by Muchikunda's glance. And after Kalayavana died, Muchikunda saw a very beautiful form of Lord, four-handed form of Lord Vishnu. And then he also saw such beautiful effulgence coming out. It was lighting up the entire cave. He saw his beautiful lotus eyes and he offered his prayers to the Lord. And the Lord was very pleased and he gave special benedictions to Muchikunda that he would be able to remember the Lord constantly. So having taken advantage of this benediction, he went on to the Gandhamadhana mountain in Badrikashrama, and he decided to remain there and perform penances and austerities for the rest of his life. So that was Muchikunda's part. And then Krishna came back to Mathura. And then now Jarasandha was coming to attack Mathura. And Krishna, again this time, he, without any weapons or without any chariot or anything, Krishna and Balaram just were just walking away from the battlefield. And again, Jarasandha was chasing him. And Krishna and Balaram were just walking, and for a long distance they walked, and then they climbed up a mountain. They went to the peak. The mountain was called Prashravana or something. And then they went on the top of the mountain, and then they were on the peak. So Jarasandha, he came chasing behind Krishna, and he was calling out names. He said, "You're a coward, you're running away from the battlefield." So this is how Krishna was called as Ranacora. He left the battlefield, and then he was acting as though he was afraid of Jarasandha and his army. He was acting that he was afraid and he was running, but he had already defeated Jarasandha's army 17 times. He was not actually afraid, but he was just acting to be afraid. And Jarasandha was so happy that, Krishna was afraid of him and his army, and he was chasing him. And he saw that Krishna and Balaram climbed up the mountain peak. So then he chased after Krishna and he tried to search around the mountain peak, but he could not find Krishna and Balaram everywhere. So he planned to kill Krishna and Balaram by setting fire to the entire peak. So he set fire, and then Krishna and Balaram, as soon as Jarasandha set fire, they jumped off the mountain peak, a distance of about 88 miles. Again, such an inhuman act. It is not ordinarily possible for any other human being to do that. So they jumped off and they escaped from the fire unseen by Jarasandha or his men. They just escaped and went back to Mathura. So then Jarasandha, he actually concluded that the two brothers were burnt to ashes. And now he had no other further purpose of fighting. So then he went back to his kingdom of Magadha. So this was the story of Jarasandha, how he came to attack Krishna, and Krishna ran from the battlefield. But later on, of course, Jarasandha was killed by Bhima, because Krishna wanted Jarasandha to die from Bhima's hand. That was his purpose. So he left in the 18th time also, even though he was getting a bad name of fleeing from the battlefield, still he accepted the blame, and then he wanted to fulfill his purpose. Now, we have some interesting points that we can reflect from Muchikunda's story and also from Jarasandha's story. That we saw that how Muchikunda was such a great devotee of Krishna. So Krishna wanted to wake up Muchikunda, but he did not want to wake himself, because he wanted to respect the boons of demigods. Because Muchikunda had received the boon from demigods that he would be able to sleep, and anybody who would disturb him would be burned to ashes. So Krishna did not want to do it on his own. Now, there are many instances in the history where Krishna had really fulfilled his purpose as well as kept the vow of his devotees, the demigods. One classic example is that in Mahabharata, the story of how Jayadratha was killed. Jayadratha was the brother-in-law of Kauravas. That is, the Kauravas had a sister called Dushala, and Jayadratha was her husband. And in Mahabharata, there is a part where the Pandavas were exiled to the forest. And once Draupadi happened to be walking alone. And when Jayadratha saw her, he wanted to abduct her because she was very beautiful. So when he saw her helpless, alone, he wanted to abduct her. And he took her in his chariot. And then the Pandavas, when they came to know that Draupadi was missing, they went in search and they found out that it was Jayadratha. So he had not gone very far, but they had chased him. Bhima and Arjuna chased Jayadratha, and they saved Draupadi, and they brought Jayadratha to Yudhishthira. Now Yudhishthira wanted to punish him, but it would not be proper to kill Jayadratha because then Dushala would become a widow. And because they treated Dushala also as their own sister, they did not want to give her a punishment because of Jayadratha's foolish act. So they insulted him because they wanted to give him some punishment to make him realize his misdeeds. So they insulted him by cutting his hair very crooked, in a crooked way. And for a Kshatriya, that's a very big insult. So now Jayadratha was burning with so much of revenge because of his insult. And so he went to the forest to meditate on Lord Shiva. He meditated for a long time and he got 2 boons from Lord Shiva. One is that one day in battlefield, he should be able to defeat all the 4 Pandavas except Arjuna. That is, should be able to defeat Yudhishthira, Bhima, Nakula, and Sahadeva on the same day. And the second boon is that he should be able to, whoever cuts his head and makes him fall dead on the ground, that is, whoever makes his head fall to the ground dead, their head will burst into pieces. So these were the 2 boons. And the Pandavas did not know about these things because he had been doing all this meditation and he gathered all these boons. And the day that he was supposed to defeat all the 4 Pandavas except Arjuna was the day that Abhimanyu died. Now let me just brief this a little bit so we can understand how Krishna played his part in saving Arjuna. So Arjuna was actually a very powerful person himself. He would be able to defeat all the soldiers and all the army. But Duryodhana planned in such a way that, there is one king called as Susharma who would help him, Duryodhana, to actually provoke and challenge Arjuna to take him far off. He wanted Arjuna to go off from the main area so that Dronacharya could attack Yudhishthira and make him a prisoner. So this was Duryodhana's plan. So he actually requested this king to provoke Arjuna and take him far off. So he took him far off. The first day, he took him far off, and then Yudhishthira was being attacked by Dronacharya and he was about to make him a prisoner. But then Arjuna had not gone too far. So he came back just in time to protect Yudhishthira. But the second day again, Duryodhana requested this king to challenge Arjuna, and then he went. And then Arjuna was again very far off this time. And then Dronacharya had planned Chakravyuha. Chakravyuha is a very complex it's a very complex thing to break and go inside. And only Arjuna knew. And Abhimanyu, being his son, he knew 1/2 of how to enter it, but he did not know how to get out of the Chakravyuha. So when Yudhishthira did not know what to do because Arjuna was not there and Dronacharya had planned Chakravyuha, so he was wondering what to do. Then Abhimanyu came forward and then he said that, it's okay, my father is not there, but I know how to enter Chakravyuha, but I don't know how to get out of it. So then Yudhishthira, he was hesitant, but still, he had no options. So he agreed to Abhimanyu that, okay, you go inside the Chakravyuha, we will come right behind you and protect you. We will not let them close the Vyuha. It's like a wheel. That's why it's called Chakravyuha. They will not let they were thinking that they will not let the Chakravyuha close. But unfortunately, that was the day that Jayadratha used his vow of defeating all the 4 Pandavas except Arjuna on the battlefield all at one time. So now Abhimanyu had gone inside the Chakravyuha, and Jayadratha stopped all the other 4 Pandavas going behind him and protecting him. And very pathetically, Abhimanyu, although he fought with so much of valor and he was so bold that he faced all the big warriors of Kaurava army, but we all know the sad story of how he got killed inside the Chakravyuha. So this was one part. Now, when Arjuna came back and he came to know that Jayadratha had killed, Jayadratha was one of the major reasons of Abhimanyu's death. He had so much of anger, he was outraged. He had so much of anger on Jayadratha that he vowed that if he did not kill Jayadratha before sunset the next day, then he would burn himself. Now, the Kauravas, they were happy because they knew about this other boon of Jayadratha. They were thinking that, okay, even if Arjuna kills Jayadratha, he would make his head fall down, and Arjuna did not know about this boon. So he will anyway die. So the Kauravas were very happy. They were thinking whether he kills Jayadratha or not, Arjuna is anyway going to die. Now, Krishna was in such a complex situation that he had to save his devotee Arjuna, because if Arjuna is killed, practically, he was the person who was protecting the entire Pandava army. So he did not want Arjuna to die. But at the same time, he had to keep all these 2 boons also intact. One boon was already fulfilled, and through which Abhimanyu died. The other boon is that Jayadratha's head should not be made to fall down by Arjuna. Then Arjuna will also die. But if Arjuna did not kill Jayadratha, still he would die because he had taken a vow. So he wanted to keep Arjuna's words also. So then the next day when Arjuna was trying to fight with Jayadratha and trying to kill him, actually Krishna, he told Arjuna this secret that, you should not make Jayadratha's head fall down to the ground, then you will die. So then Arjuna asked, what should I do? And being an expert archer, he could direct that into any direction. So he said, direct it to the direction where his father is meditating at a very long distance. So Arjuna he cut his head and he made it fall so far off on Jayadratha's father's lap. So the sage who was meditating, he just saw that some head is coming and falling on his head. So in shock, he just pushed it down. And when it fell to the ground, he became the reason for the head to fall down. And so his head burst into pieces. So see how Krishna fulfilled so many purposes just in one go. So it's so amazing how Krishna plans things. So this is one of the classic example. And another example is about how the brothers Nalakuvara and Manigriva were delivered by Krishna's own hands, just because Narada had told them when they regretted of their ill behavior. Narada had given a word that Krishna will come and deliver you with his own hands, and then you will get delivered from this curse. So just because he wanted to protect Narada's words, we all know the story of how Krishna in the form of Damodara pushed the grinding mortar between the Yamala Arjuna trees and made the trees fall down and dead. And then 2 dazzling personalities, Nalakuvara and Manigriva, came out and circumambulated Krishna, and then they went back to their abode. So this is how amazing Krishna plans things. It just seems as though he was just performing a pastime, but he fulfills his purpose also. And then the third example is of that of Hiranyakashipu. We all know what complex combinations of boons he had asked. Although Brahma had said that he could not give him the boon of being immortal, but still Hiranyakashipu had practically covered all other possibilities of getting killed. It was such a complex combination. But even in those conditions, Krishna found a way out. And beyond anybody's imagination, he came up in the form of half man and half lion as Nrsinga Dev to protect his dear devotee Prahalada, and also to protect his devotee Brahma's words, his boons, fulfilling all the conditions of Hiranyakashipu and still killing Hiranyakashipu. So he is such an expert and intelligent planner. His plans are so much beyond our imagination, and he plans so perfectly that he will make sure that he will fulfill the boons that his devotees have given, at the same time, he will get his purposes fulfilled as well. Another fourth example is about Bhasmasura. Bhasmasura was a very great devotee of Lord Shiva. So Bhasmasura, he actually meditated on Lord Shiva for a long time. And then he received a boon from Lord Shiva that whosever head he would touch, they would be burnt to ashes. And now, he, being a demon, he wanted to use the boon on Lord Shiva himself. And then Lord Shiva realizes what boon he has given. So now he has no time. He's just fleeing everywhere. He wants to escape from Bhasmasura. So he goes everywhere. And then finally he comes to Lord Vishnu, praying for protection. And finally, Lord Vishnu has to protect Lord Shiva also, although he has given such a boon, and he has to also protect his boon. So then Lord Vishnu takes the Mohini avatara, and he tries to bewilder Bhasmasura. And then Mohini goes and says to Bhasmasura that, come on, let's dance. So now Bhasmasura is bewildered by Mohini's statements. He's practically ready to do anything that she says. So Mohini says, come, let's dance. You do whatever steps I do. And then in the course of the dance, Krishna, as Mohini, he touches his own head. And then Bhasmasura copies Mohini, and then he also touches his head. And now the boon that was given by Lord Shiva got fulfilled, and Bhasmasura burned to ashes. So this is how beautifully Krishna plans things. And when others perform some act, they are found fault with. But when Krishna does such things, his leelas are always very sweet and very pleasing. And not just that it is pleasing, but he has a purpose behind performing each and every act. So from the Muchakunda's pastime, we realize how beautifully Krishna planned for Kalyavana to die at Muchakunda's hands and Muchakunda's glance. So Krishna did not want to kill Kalyavana. So he planned for this to happen, and effortlessly Kalyavana was dead. So from this story, we understand how Krishna plans things and he executes his purposes very expertly. And from Jarasandha's pastime, we see how Krishna runs away from the battlefield. He actually got a name, Ranacora. But this is a very sweet pastime, because, when any other Kshatriya would run away from the battlefield, it is a shame. As we all saw in the Jayadratha's pastime, that Arjuna, when challenged by the king Susharma, he did not want to remain quiet. Although Krishna warned him, Arjuna, he's just provoking you because he wants you to be away from Yudhishthira. And Dronacharya is planning to capture Yudhishthira. Although Krishna warned him, although Arjuna knew that his presence was absolutely required there, but still, as a Kshatriya, he could not resist the challenge that was given by some other king. So he went away from Yudhishthira. He told the other his other brothers to protect Yudhishthira, but he knew that was not enough. And still he went away. This is how a typical Kshatriya's behavior is. He really doesn't resist the challenge of any other king. But Krishna, who was also a Kshatriya, who was acting like as a Kshatriya, he actually took the blames and insults of being a coward and running away from the battlefield just to get his purposes fulfilled. And he exhibited high renunciation. He was, among the six opulences, renunciation is one of the opulence. And he was full in all the six opulences. So he exhibited such, high renunciation by running away from the battlefield. And he wanted to get his purpose was more important for him than his glory of being victorious in the battlefield. So Krishna is sweetly called as Ranacora, rather than being known as one who fled from the battlefield in fear. We know that he did not run away in fear. We know that he had a purpose to fulfill by running away, but he exhibits his renunciation. Normally, if anybody would provoke us with insulting words, we would want to react back, and we would want to give back, or we would want to at least explain or justify why we did something. But Krishna, see here, he exhibits such high renunciation. He did not take the insulting words of Kalyavana or Jarasandha seriously, and he just fulfilled his purpose. So he is teaching us by his examples how we should ignore the insulting words and provoking words of others, and we should still carry on with our devotion, very steadfast. So as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna teaches us that, we have to be humble as a blade of grass, and we have to tolerate all insulting words. We should give respects and expect no respect in return. As he says in the Shikshashtaka, Trinadapi Shunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadaharihi. So not only does he say, but he also shows in action how one should ignore others' insulting words and still go on with their devotion very sincerely and very consistently. So that is one, as he says in the 3rd chapter, Krishna says that, he is not bound by any duties, but at the same time, he will still do his duties because the common men will follow the great men. Yad yad acharati sreshtas tat tat eva taro janaha. So just as he says in the 3rd chapter, he wants to keep up and he wants to act in such a way that people will also be inspired to do their duty in spite of so many obstacles. So that is what Krishna is teaching us through this pastime as well. And so I would like to conclude here by saying that Krishna is a wonderful, exhibits such wonderful pastimes for us to relish. And also he makes sure that his purposes are fulfilled, although he may get names like Ranacora. And for the sake of his devotees, he would accept any blames and he would just give all honor to his devotees. So he's such a great personality that, we should try to understand him, and we should try to understand his greatness through all these pastimes rather than doubting or analyzing. And we should also try to make sure that we follow our duties, just like how Krishna did, without taking all the insulting words seriously, and to go on in a very consistent way. Thank you all very much. Forgive me for any mistakes or flaws. And I would like to open here for any questions or comments that you have. And thank you all very much again. Hare Krishna.
Jai, Hare Krishna, Saroja Nandini Mataji. Wow, you are such a sweet story narrator. I could now relate why kids are so much attracted to you, because you narrate stories so sweetly and so beautifully that, people get hooked to it. So thank you, Mataji. You related so many stories, and the way you connected with today's topic, and it was really wonderful. Like, story after story, and Krishna's pastime itself is so sweet. But when it comes to from your lotus mouth, it becomes more sweeter. So thank you, Mataji. Thank you for coming on the call. Thank you for narrating so beautiful stories. Hare Krishna. I don't have any question as such, but really want to appreciate the way you narrated. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Kirtida Mataji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada for such beautiful narration. I was just repeating the words of Srila Prabhupada.
But you were repeating very sweetly, Mataji. That I should say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Saroja Nandini Mataji, Dandavats, Jai Srila Prabhupada. What a beautiful class.
Hare Krishna,
I was just thinking, especially when you were telling that Krishna exhibited his epitome of renunciation in the battlefield, though we call him Ranacora. I mean, that was such a beautiful way of putting it together, and the stories related to how Krishna fulfills multiple purposes in one action. That was also very, very nicely told. Very nice, Mataji. Very, very nice class. I did have a question, and this was about how to correlate the stories of Bhasmasura, Mohini, and Vrikasura, and the small Brahmin boy. So how do we understand the correlation? Because they're kind of similar, right? Meaning, is it from different Puranas, or how do we understand that, or different commentaries? How do we get because some people are familiar with the Bhasmasura version, some people are familiar with the Vrikasura version. So that's what I wanted to ask.
Thank you, Pritivilasni Mataji. I'm not exactly sure if it was a different story. So Vrikasura and the Brahmin boy is also similar, you're saying? as far as I know, Bhasmasura and Brikasura are the same person.
Same. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're just called in different names.
Names. Okay.
But yeah, it's two names for the same person. As far as that I know, that's what it is.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. But really, it was very, very nice. And also, I was thinking about, I used to always get confused between Jayadratha and Jarasandha, maybe because the names are so close.
Yeah.
But I was really pleasantly surprised and happy that both characters were told in the same class, so that even I can clearly distinguish between the two hereafter. I always have a confusion with that. So thank you, Mataji. Very, very nice. And I did have another question. Yeah. So when you were talking about Garga Muni, right? About how he had this, he was insulted, and then he decided that he would have a son who would defeat the Yadavas, right? So that was the, so two questions there is, how did that boon get ever fulfilled besides him running behind Krishna? Did it at all get fulfilled in one sense where he could defeat?
He was just given a boon that he would get a son who would be able to defeat Yadus. So he had the ability to defeat Yadus.
Meaning he could even face them that way.
Yeah, he could face them. In fact, there is a side story in this context that, Krishna, he wanted to, although he protected his citizens in Dwaraka, he wanted to test the intelligence of Kalyavana. So what he did is he sent him not just the physical strength, he also wants to test the intelligence of the opponent. So he wanted to see if Kalyavana was intelligent enough. And he sent him a pot with snake. And then when he sent the pot with snake, he wanted to see what Kalyavana was replying back to him. So Kalyavana sent him the pot filled with ants, meaning that, millions of ants can even kill a snake. So he sent him a reply like that. So Kalyavana was intelligent. He had the ability to, give back and to defeat the Yadus. But then Krishna had his own plans of, getting killed in a different way, which, was totally bewildering to him as well. So the boon was only about, he was able to kill, or he was able to defeat the Yadus. So that
Very
way,
nice.
he had the ability.
Right. Like just like Jayadratha, again, he had the ability to block the Pandavas.
Yes.
That's it. Nothing more. Thank you, Mataji. Very nice. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Priti Vilasini Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
What a beautiful class, Mataji. Thank you so much for this one. Thank you. So many doubts got cleared. Mataji, I have one question and then I have one realization. So my question is, why not Arjuna and all the four except Arjuna? Why all other four brothers, Mataji?
Yeah, that was the strength of Jayadratha, that Arjuna was practically unconquerable. It was so difficult to defeat Arjuna. He was not just an ordinary warrior. He was himself, he killed so many great warriors. So it was not easy for anyone to face Arjuna. So even Karna was not qualified to kill Arjuna. So in any sense, he was the greatest warrior. Dronacharya announced him to be the greatest archer. So it was so difficult to defeat Arjuna. So it was not within Jayadratha's capability that he would be able to kill. So in fact, he even asked for all the 5 Pandavas to be defeated, but he only got the boon that he could defeat the other 4 Pandavas. That too only for one day. He would be able to defeat them, not even kill. So that was his capacity, and according to his capacity, he got the boon.
Yeah, thank you so much. And there are so many, as you were narrating the stories, one after another, so many things were, clicking. And again, I would say thank you. One more thing that I was thinking, in the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, chapter 9, text 35, towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, Krishna is all good. And he gives the example how all the people who were the enemies of Arjuna, they were present and they got Sarupya Mukti. And Prabhupada says that if they were at home, they would have never got it. They didn't have that as their, as their destiny, but just being there in the presence of Krishna. So it is not that something bad. Whatever Krishna does, it does for everyone's good. And in Bhagavad Gita 9:29, Krishna says, I don't hate anybody, I don't favor anybody. So that proves the point that even if the enemies of his devotee, he still gave them liberation. I mean, that's the best they can get for them, at least for their such behavior. So thank you so much, Mataji. There are so many points that, touch the heart, and I hope I remember them all. Thank you again. Dandavat Pranam, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Anuradha Mataji, for quoting those 2 points and then saying it so nicely. Thank you again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you, Mataji, for such
Hare Krishna, Vinita Mataji. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Mataji, for such a beautiful class. Very, very nice points, Mataji. I really like how many stories you have narrated, Mataji, in such a small, short time. And I really like the point how you are talking about the renunciation. Even being the Krishna as a Kshatriya, he renounced and he showed how the renunciation is. And I really like the point where, the Kshatriyas were like very good in their point that they don't go against to the other person. Like Kalayavana was not going against to Krishna, means Krishna was without weapons and he also wanted to be without weapons. But as soon as he got agitated, he forgot everything and again he started scolding. So Mataji, can you explain this? Because he was so respectful. He was like, he was also leaving his chariot and going nicely. But later again, he got agitated and he started scolding Krishna. So how to understand, Mataji?
Yes, thank you, Vinita Mataji, for this question. So this is the point of bewilderment for us, that we always think others in terms of our own behavior, that Atmavat Manyate Jagat. So Kalayavana is thinking here from his own behavior, that as a Kshatriya, nobody would leave the war and go. But if somebody is doing that, then he is thinking that he is a coward. We know that Krishna did not leave because of fear. We know that he was not a coward. But Kalayavana did not understand Krishna's purpose in doing that. He wanted to agitate Kalayavana and make him follow him. But Kalayavana thought that Krishna was running out of fear. So when he started thinking from his perspective, and he could not understand the ultimate plan of Krishna, that is why he was scolding him, so that, he was thinking that if he probably provokes him with insulting words, Krishna would turn back and come and fight with him, or at least reply back. But it's such high level of tolerance that Krishna did not even say anything back to Kalayavana. He did not even treat as though he was present. So just to bewilder Kalayavana, and Kalayavana was just any other normal Kshatriya, that he was just reacting in the way that Kshatriya would react. So he was surprised that Krishna did not turn back or, react to him.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. So many nice points, Mataji. How always Krishna left Jarasandha because he wants all the demons to be killed, because he gave that to the promise to Mother Earth that she is going to save her from the demons. Yeah, very nice, Mataji. How the Arjuna pastime and everything was so nice, Mataji. Thank you so much for very, very detailed, nice pastimes class, Mataji. Thank you for covering many pastimes. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Vinita Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Saroja Nandini Mataji. Needless
Hare
to say,
Krishna, Mataji.
yeah, whenever you give any class, as everybody was saying, we just glue on to it because of the beautiful narration. I was just noting down everything so that I thought I can share the stories once the kids come back. So thanks for narrating such beautiful, beautiful pastimes, Mataji. Very nice. It makes, when we hear from, like, the pastimes as such are sweet, but with the sweet narration, our love towards Krishna and the pastime gets more and more it's more attractive. We get attracted more. Thank you.
Thank you, Padmasakhi Mataji. As you were rightly saying, the pastimes are very sweet. Many times we hear the stories, but sometimes we forget to understand the details or understand Krishna's purpose in doing something. Sometimes we just read the story and go on. But this is a very nice session arranged for all the people to benefit from the Krishna Katha Mela, that we are able to go into the pastimes more deep and understand the purpose behind each and every act of Krishna. So really thankful to the coordinators for it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Very nice class, Mataji. Initially, I think in your introduction, they said you are in IT or in computers somewhere. I think Krishna has given you some special chip with all the memory. So many stories, amazing, amazing. Jai Jai. I was wondering, you attaching one story with another. It's a very beautiful class. Thank you so much. Certainly, this class, of course, we are all kids for Krishna, but kids will love this class. Certainly, 100%. So many beautiful stories. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. All
Hare
glories to
Krishna.
Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Danvat Pranams. Such a beautiful class, like everybody.
Danvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Like everybody said, very, very nice narration, Mataji, of the pastimes. And especially with your narration, it adds more to it. And it was so crystal clear, many of the facts that you stated. And it didn't appear too heavy also, but at the same time, it was so interestingly, you presented the whole, so many pastimes. I just have one humble request, Mataji, in your sweet golden voice, can you please sing one bhajan, please?
Sure, Sakasagri Mataji. Thank you so much for the comments. And
Hare Krishna, is there anybody having any more realizations before we go into the bhajan? We have the chat comments. I will be reading that. For that, there is anybody who would like to talk? Radharani Mataji, would you like to speak?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Such a beautiful, beautiful class, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
So nice to hear from you. So many sweet stories. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for your association. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so
I'm
much.
waiting for your bhajan. Hare Krishna. Vinita Mataji, you can go ahead. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, Mataji, I will just quickly read these comments. Oh, Kumar, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Very nice.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Story and story and story and story. Very.
Kumariki Mataji, you got muted.
Yes, I like to hear you singing very nicely. You are singing and also teaching nice rhymes to the kids, small kids. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, my Kaumaliki Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, I just wanted to add one more comment which came to my mind. Mataji, your storytelling was like that, what was that? Persian stories. I forgot the Arabian Nights. One story inside the other story inside the other. I mean, it could go.
I hope I did not confuse you all with too many stories in one package.
No, Mataji, you can just hold people, I think, captive like that with your stories. Like how in the Arabian Nights that princess who gets married, she just keeps telling stories after stories. So she doesn't want to be killed by her husband. Like that, you can hold people so captive and, take them back to Godhead with your beautiful storytelling, Mataji. That just came to my mind. I wanted to share.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mata.
Hare Krishna, Saroja Nandini Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. What a beautiful narration, Mataji, and beautiful stories. I love your class, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Is there anybody who would like to speak? Okay. If there are no, then I will just quickly read the comments, Mataji. Raj Prabhu is saying, very beautiful class, very beautiful pastimes, all of them. Mataji is full of knowledge. Jai. Then again we have Nidhi Patel, Mataji. Thank you for sharing such a beautiful pastimes. Hare Krishna. So grateful, Dada Mataji is writing. And then Vrinda Gopika Mataji is writing, Koti Koti Pranam, Dandavat Pranam. I would like to write word-to-word notes, and you made us to enter into Sridham Leela, and she wants to go. That's why she took the permission of you and she left the call, Mataji. And Shivani Mataji was saying, Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for narrating the pastime so beautifully, and thank you for wonderful association. And Shama Supriya Mataji is saying, very wonderful class, Mataji. Thank you so much. And Nandapriya Narmada Mataji is saying, Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for such a nectarian class, Mataji. And even the stories were so beautifully narrated. Thank you so much for your wonderful class. Parima Mataji, Dandavat Pranam to you, Mataji. Very nice class. Hare Krishna. And Vrinda Mataji is saying she also has the same request that she wants to hear a song from you. And Anuradha Mataji was saying to the comment to the Suksagari Mataji, what she was saying is like Panchatantra Katalu, like the stories. But like that today, it was all the stories we were hearing very nicely, Mataji. And Vrinda Mataji is again saying we rarely get an opportunity to hear your singing. Beautiful class like yourself, Mataji. So beautiful comments and realizations, Mataji. And without much due, okay, we have Lalitangi Mataji. We are missing this class, Mataji. So wonderful and so many points. Thank you. Yeah. So without further ado, Mataji, I would like to hand over the call to you for the beautiful singing. Hare Krishna.
Thank you all Matajis for all your wonderful love and nice words. Hare Krishna. So I think I would sing Mama Mana Mandire, which is one of my favorite songs by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Okay. Mama Mana Mandire Raha Nishidhi Krishna Murari Shri Krishna Murari Mama Mana Mandire Raha Nishidhi Krishna Murari Shri Krishna Murari Bhakti Priti Mala Chandan Bhakti Priti Mala Chandan Tumi niyo he niyo Chitanandan Jivana Marana Tava Puja Nivedan Jivana Marana Tava Puja Nivedan Sundar He Manhari Sundar He Manhari Isho Nanda Kumara Nanda Kumar Isho Nanda Kumara Nanda Kumar Habe Prema Pradipe Arati Tomar Prema Pradipe Arati Tomar Nayana Jamuna Jhare Anibar Nayana Jamuna Jhare Anibar Tomara Virahe Giridhari Tomare Virahe Giridhari Bandana Ganitava Baju Jivana Bandana Ganitava Baju Jivana Krishna Murari Shri Krishna Murari Mama Mana Mandire Raha Nishidhi Krishna Murari Shri Krishna Murari. Thank you everyone. Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Thank you, Mataji, for such
so beautiful.
Thank you so much. It made us so happy, Mataji. You took us to a different world. Thank you. So I say,
thank you, Mataji, for the beautiful bhajan. I was just reminded of Gauravani's bhajan, the same rendition of the same. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you all, Matajis.
Yeah, this is my favorite, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. I was almost having tears in my eyes. It was very nice. it got us into the mood of Bhaktivinoda Thakur very nicely. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Preeti Mataji. Thank you to all Matajis for all your loving words.
So if there are no more questions or realizations, we would end in the call with Mataji's permission and all the devotees' permission on the call. I would like to offer my obeisances to Mataji and all the Vaishnavas assembled on the call. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo namo nama. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Her Grace Saroja Nandini Mataji ki jai. Thank you,
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.